There's a story in the Bible that's been weaponized for centuries. A story about suffering, punishment, loss, and divine justice. But what if everything you've been told about the story of Job has been wrong? I've spent months digging into this, tracking down works by scholars, analyzing Hebrew texts, and what I found changes everything. The book of Job isn't about why bad things happen to good people. Rather, it's about exposing a broken religious system that still exists today.
Things will happen in your life and you'll come up upon situations that will expose something that you would prefer to hide, and what you do next determines whether you get healed.
Let's start with what we think we know. Job, a righteous man, loses everything. His so-called friends blame him. God shows up, gets restored. Simple, right? Well, not quite. You need to understand the absolute annihilation we're talking about here. This wasn't just a bad day. This was a targeted demolition of an entire life. Every asset, every employee, every heir, gone before sunset. Satan didn't just attack Job's wealth, he erased his legacy. And here's the sick part. This was all legal. How so? Well, here's what happened. First, the heavenly wager. Satan literally walks into God's throne room and makes a bet. This was not normal. In fact, this could only happen because of a legal loophole that no longer exists today. Think of it like this. When Adam sinned, it was like he signed a contract giving Satan temporary prosecutor rights in God's courtroom. For a very limited time, Satan could bring charges against humans and demand penalties, just like Job's suffering. Then come Job's friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. These guys represent the three types of bad religious advice you still hear today. Eliphaz argues from experience. I've seen this before. You must have sinned. Bildad argues from tradition. This is how our ancestors understood God. And Zophar argues from legality. If you just repent harder, God will bless you. Here's what most people miss. God calls their advice erroneous, flat out wrong. In Job 42 verse 7, God says Job spoke the truth, and his friends did not. This changes everything. Because if Job's suffering wasn't a form of punishment, and the religious answers given to him were wrong, remember, Job's friends accused him of hidden sin, but then God called their words false. Just know, even today, many preachers make the same mistake. Then what was really happening to Job? Job's problem wasn't sin. It was self-righteousness. Count how many times he says the word I in chapter 29. Over 40 times. I helped the poor. I was honest. I deserved better. The Hebrew shows Job wasn't being punished. He was being liberated from the illusion that his goodness earned God's favor. Today, we've got modern Eliphazes everywhere. Preachers who say your suffering is your fault, that it's karma, that if you just prayed more, gave more, repented more, then God would bless you. It's basically the same old toxic message, just with better production value. So what's the answer? Elihu, the forgotten fourth friend, gives us the key. He points to a mediator, a ransom, a future solution. That solution? Jesus. The cross closed the legal loophole Satan exploited. Today, no one can accuse you before God because Jesus is your righteousness. The true purpose behind what happened to Job was that the Lord allowed Job's trial to expose his sense of self-righteousness and to reveal his grace through Elihu's ransom prophecy. The real story isn't about why bad things happen. Rather, it's about a God who meets us in suffering, not to punish us, but to free us from the lie that we ever earned his love in the first place. So, to sum up, what can we learn from the story of Job? First, suffering comes from Satan, not God. Second, religious teaching such as, "You must repent harder," is toxic. And lastly, when we experience trials and hardships in life, they expose not our failures, but our real need for unearned grace. In other words, we need the Lord's unmerited favor in our lives. And that changes everything. Click on the next video for more stories that unpack God's blueprint for success.